Brilliant. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Maui Planning Commission meeting of Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. Specifically pertaining to the South Maui Community Plan. Director, roll call, please.
Commissioner Dekos.
Good afternoon. I'm alone in the hotel room on Oahu.
Commissioner Kealoha.
Good afternoon. Still at home, still alone.
We're having trouble hearing you. If you could be a little
Can you
louder.
hear me?
Yes.
I said, good afternoon, still at home and still alone.
Okay. Commissioner Lindsay.
Hello, my kako. I am at home in Wailuku alone.
Commissioner Hippolito.
Aloha all. I'm in Kahului, my office alone.
Mahalo, Vice Chair Thompson.
Aloha, good evening all here at the county.
Chair Thayer.
Yes. Aloha hiahi kako. Good afternoon, everybody. So we are diving back into our review of the South Maui Community Plan. On our agenda for today is all of Section 2, Goals 2.1 through 2.5. We have some flagged for discussion from previous meetings, and we have yet to finish our review of Goal 2.4 and Goal 2.5. I do understand that we have the Housing Department here with us today to be able to answer questions. So commissioners, take note of that. But before we jump in, let us take public testimony. Do we have anybody signed up to testify?
I have one signed up in person, Brian Banks.
Okay, and we are taking online testimony as well, correct? Okay, so if anybody is online and wishes to testify, please write your name in the chat and staff will confirm that you are on the list. But for now, we can have our first testifier in the gallery. Yep, please come up, state your name for the record and go ahead.
My name is Brian Banks. Aloha and thank you for this opportunity. I'm the president of the Grand Champion Villas in Wailea. Today I'm here on behalf of our board and 188 owners.
Oh, if you're online, please mute yourself. Okay, do we restart his time? If you're online, please make sure you mute yourself. Otherwise, we're all going to hear your conversation. Sorry,
Okay.
please go ahead. State your name and go ahead.
Yes, my name is Brian Banks. I'm the president of the Grand Champions Villas in Wailea. Today I'm here on behalf of our board and our 188 owners. We kindly request that the plan designation of Grand Champions changed from residential to the more accurate resort hotel in the South Maui Community Plan. Our request is based on the following rationale. Number one, resort hotel designation reflects more accurately the original intent and continuous use of Grand Champions since its inception in 1990. The original declaration and bylaws accepted and recorded by Maui County Land Court and the way the units were advertised and sold all emphasized that Grand Champions was developed to offer transient vacation rentals. Grand Champions units were continuously utilized as short-term rentals since it was built 34 years ago. Number two, Grand Champions is located in the middle of Wailea Resort area, surrounded by hotels, shopping centers, tennis courts, and golf courses. Grand Champions' neighbors on Wailea Ike Place and Wailea Ike Drive are recently developed hotels, 4 shopping centers, a tennis club, and golf courses. This is not a residential area. Currently, Grand Champions offering short-term rentals is in perfect harmony with the surrounding properties. Number three, Grand Champions can contribute to the local economy and support local families better as a property that offers STRs, which collect and pay taxes and provide jobs for local families. Number 4, our request is in line with the statements and recommendations of our mayor. In previous planning commission meetings, our mayor stated that properties that operate primarily as short-term rentals should request resort hotel designation in the community plan. He said, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Therefore, here we are suggesting that changing the plan designation of Grand Champions from residential to resort hotel would be in line with mayor's statements and directions. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to provide input to the South Maui community plan. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for all you do for us. Mahalo.
Any questions for the testifier? Okay, I have a couple of questions for
Of
you.
course.
Did you get to testify to the Community Plan Advisory Committee?
No, this is my first time testifying. I have not done what you mentioned.
Okay, and then have you seen the maps that are within this plan?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure where exactly the Grand Champions is located, but do you know which map you're in?
Yes, it is in the Wailea plan map, and it is in the area Wailea Ike Place, Wailea Ike Drive. There's two new hotels there, both Marriott hotels, and there's a shopping center there, and then all the tennis courts. We are right next to it. So we are in between the tennis courts, golf courses, the shopping area, and the two Marriott hotels on Wailea Ike Place and Wailea Ike Drive. As you come down before the traffic light with the Wailea shopping area.
Okay, thank you. So this is all in section 3 of the plan, which we don't have on our agenda today, so we won't be able to discuss it at all. But hopefully at our next meeting or soon thereafter, we will get to section 3. Do you think at that time you could provide written testimony?
Yes, I will actually come to the next meeting as well and provide testimony and answer any other questions you may have.
Okay, yeah, any visual you can provide would be also helpful, like if you can provide written testimony and you can.
Yeah,
still put
actually,
visual
I did.
testimony.
I'm glad you asked that. I did provide a written testimony this time too. There's a map there, actually a Google satellite image showing Grand Champions, the 2 hotels, shopping areas, 4 shopping areas, and golf courses and tennis, all nicely labeled in my written testimony that I submitted Friday.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and so just when we get to have section 3 on our agenda, can you maybe resubmit your
Yes.
testimony so it's all?
And also, to be honest, what I'm presenting here today applies almost identically to the other 3 condominiums affected with this proposed bill in Wailea. The Ekahi, Ekolu, Palms, and Grand Champions, they all have similar characteristics. And since their inception, they all have been providing short-term rentals in a win-win situation, both to the community as well as to the visitors and residents. And as you all know, probably even better than me, I've been here since 1999, 25 years now. Wailea was envisioned as a resort community, and these condominiums provide a very valuable service. And there are literally, I can't even count, like 50 restaurants nearby, and all of our guests just walk there. They are here for vacation, they don't want to cook. And that's all business for locals. And there are people who cook there, people who are serving, all of the above. So it's a very symbiotic relationship, providing affordable rooms for the guests who come here and spend money. So they have a nice vacation. Local community gets customers, paying customers. It all spreads around, and we feel that it helps the community tremendously, and we hope to be able to continue this symbiotic and mutually beneficial relationship.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I'll be here next time.
Okay. Do we have anyone else signed up to testify?
Next person is Harry Lake, followed by Chip Chase.
Hello, Commission. My name is Harry Lake, and I'm a representative of the ownership of Pi'ilani Promenade, commonly known as Ka'ana'ulu. It's at the intersection of Pi'ilani Highway and Ka'ana'ulu, in between Kalanihakoi High School and Kihei Gateway. So it's 88 acres there. I don't want to take up too much time. You guys have a long day already, but I just want to reiterate what I've mentioned in the two previous meetings, which is our concern for a 150-foot setback off of Pi'ilani, broadly spread across any property along Pi'ilani Highway. Our approved agreement with the county, the state, certain interveners spoke to a 30-foot setback. And this 100-foot setback would be devastating for our property. It'd also be inconsistent with the properties to the north and south of us and across the highway from us. Our plan is already approved by, again, state agencies already, including DOT. And we'd ask ask that you consider reducing the 150-foot setback to 40 feet, which would be in excess of the 30 feet that we're already approved for. I'm here to answer any questions you might have, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you again.
Thank you.
Is there anybody who signed up after Mr. Chip Chase?
That's it. Then it's all online. There's three, Johan Law, David Good, and Bo.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, members. Nice to see you again. I'll cover just very briefly some policies that haven't been voted on yet, and I know we hope to get to 2.5 series today. 2.1.9 that Harry just testified on, we would have that same 150-foot setback on our property. At the last meeting, I prepared and presented a map showing the impact that that would have on our property, and in particular on the area that this commission designated for affordable housing. It would force us to compress that affordable housing into or potentially anyway, a very small area. And so we'd ask that that be reduced to 40 feet. 2.2.26 deals with affordable housing and phasing. There's already a phasing mechanism in chapter 2.96 for the development of affordable and market. We'd ask that that be followed and not this current or proposed phasing. In 2.3.1 and 2.3.2, there's a reference to SLAR-XA, Solarexa, as setting a line that is contrary to the shoreline rules that this commission adopted, voted on twice. This commission used the erosion hazard line, which is only one component of the Solarexa mapping to set the setback. And we don't think that it should be inconsistent with the specific shoreline rules that the commission adopted. For 2.4.5b, that deals with the gulches. We've testified on that, and David Good will probably continue that. We recommended changes. 2.3.8 is duplicative of existing law, as is 2.4.12, and the latter would, I think, negatively impact the development of affordable housing. Getting very quickly into the 5 series, 2.5.7 deals with the preservation of mature trees. We'd suggest that that be amended to state where practicable, so that it doesn't prevent a project in the event that the tree can't be maintained. 2.5.11a is contrary to Chapter 6E, deals with historic preservation and requires preservation of sites, even though SHPD makes the final decision on the preservation of sites other than EV discovered during an archaeological inventory survey. 2.5.11b does the same thing, except it applies not even to the project site area, but to nearby sites as long as they're in the same TMK. So it would require preservation of sites that aren't even affected by the project.
30 seconds.
That's not permissible and is again contrary to 6E. And 2.5.14 deals with the restoration and preservation of roads and then requires access to them. We would suggest that that should only apply to public roads. Don't believe the community plan can or should require access to private roads. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions from the commission? Commissioner Kealoha.
Well, for your testimony, this is maybe crossing back over again, but I thought, so one of your first comments was, I think you were saying that the 150-foot setback would impact the affordable or the workforce housing units in Honuaula, but I thought we just talked about you guys didn't know where, like what the affordable units would be, where they would be. I'm trying to look in the maps that you guys showed, and I don't see any designation for the areas for the affordable units.
Sure, Commissioner. It's a great question. If you look at the, I don't know if you have my PowerPoint slide handy, or Exhibit 53, which is our Phase 2 site plan. If you look down in what would be the Mackay north corner, should see a purple area. I didn't bring it up with me, so that's a little bit on memory, but kind of at the edge of, or the end of Pi'ilani Highway, just as it intersects with Waialaiki. That area has been designated through the Phase 2 site planning for the workforce housing, among some other uses. What I explained in our last hearing was that the specific types of units hasn't been settled and the specific subdivision of lots has not been determined. But the areas were set in a conceptual form in the Phase 2 site plan. So if you look at that Phase 2 site plan, you'll see colored areas for single family. You'll see colored areas for village mixed use. And a component of that is going to be the workforce housing areas. Then you'll see colored areas for parks, for preservation areas, and for municipal areas like the Miko substation and the police, or currently the fire substation. And so at a conceptual level, those areas have been mapped. If you look at the testimony I presented at the prior commission meeting on the South Maui Community Plan, you will see a close-up of the area in that Mackay northern section at the end of Pi'ilani Highway. And you will see the existing setback that we are required to maintain and the proposed 150-foot setback drawn into the map in that testimony. It's the last page, I believe, of my prior testimony. That illustrates the impact of 150 feet at that section. You can also see, if you just look more broadly at the area, that that's very near to Maui Meadows. And what little sense it would make to have this one area have 150-foot setback at the end of the highway next to Maui Meadows. And so both because it makes no sense and because it would potentially impact the affordable housing area or workforce housing area of the project, we would ask that the reference to 150 be either removed or reduced to the 40 feet that Mr. Lake discussed.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more questions.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Chair.
That's it for in person. So we'll go on to online. First person, Johan Law, followed by David Good, and then Bo.
Aloha, this is Johan Lal testifying on behalf of myself. I wanted to testify on 2.1.9 on the 150-foot buffer. I did submit written, and I included a web map so you guys can visualize what that 150-foot is. And I was actually surprised when I mapped it because in my mind, 150 feet seemed a lot bigger than what it ended up being. It really seems now like kind of the bare minimum of a setback you would want to have just to reduce the amount of road noise and also create a walking path, a biking path where you're not at risk of like being run over by a car. So I would like to see that stay in. I did also, while Cal Chip Chase was testifying, I pulled up a map. I'm not sure if this is the most current, but it's the one on the PBR Associates website, which it seems like it should be accurate, but I don't see anything on there that designates where the workforce housing is. I do see that that area that he's talking about is multifamily, but it's a pretty big area that they have to work with. So I'm not sure that would really affect them. But another thing, I think it's inaccurate to say that it just doesn't make sense because the parcel for that roadway actually continues through Honolulu. So that's why there's like a straight line through that development. It's state land where it looks like the state might build a highway in the future. So that would be a reason to actually continue that 150 foot if possible, for that walking and biking path. Overall, I think it's inaccurate to say that these regulations are inconsistent with state regulations because it doesn't really work that way. I think in general, you can be more restrictive than the state. So 6E in Hawaii is like the bare minimum. There's not many protections. I think we see how it works out. You get giant mansions right next to heiaus. I think it's not unreasonable to require construction and development to consider impacts to burials, cultural sites, things like that, that's in an adjacent parcel. I
30
think that's how it
seconds.
should be. So you guys really should, when you hear stuff like that from someone who's being paid a lot of money to testify, you should take that into account. You know, he is a very good lawyer, and a lot of these guys are very good at their job, but take into account that they are being paid a lot of money to get outcomes. So that's my testimony. Mahalo.
Mahalo for your testimony. Questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Next person is David Good, followed by Bo.
Mr. Good, are you online?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. I was actually on my way to the Planning Commission, and I'm just parking outside, so I'll continue on to about finished. I am going to testify on 2.4.5B, which I've testified previously orally and in writing. And I think that's where the commission left off 2 weeks ago. I think it was Commissioner Lindsay who had to think about it, sleep on it a bit, and I don't blame her because it's kind of awkward the way 2.4.5A has a set of requirements that says, well, you can 100 feet from the gulch is what we're looking for unless you do low impact development. But in development, it takes away that option to do the low impact development just as we want it, no matter what. And so what that I think does, it tells somebody who's got property with that particular feature in it that we want it left alone. We don't want you to do anything with it. We don't want to put low impact development in there. And that existing condition, as we know, in South Maui can often be deer trampled, dusty, full of invasives, etc. And so to me, it makes sense to have almost similar language to A, where it says it's okay to have within 100 feet, provided there's reasonable low impact development type improvements in there. And so why make the distinction between existing development and future development and give an out to future development to just essentially do nothing? So I think Pacific Rim Land also had language along those lines to basically kind of make A and B very similar. And so I think that's something for you folks to look at as you get to that item, and it might be the first item you take up. Other than that, I'll be available in the audience in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from the commission? Seeing none, we'll see you inside soon.
Okay, thank you.
And last person is Bo.
Hi, hello, committee member. Could you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for providing the opportunity to do the testimony. So I'm the owner of the condominium at Maui Kamaoli. I'm asking the Maui Planning Commission to rezone the zoning of the Maui Kamaoli to the hotel zone and put the hotel zone designation on the South Maui community plan. So the reason for that is the Maui Kamaoli is a kind of resort-style condominium, and since it was built, the Maui Kamaoli has always operated as a legal short-term rental, and like most of the time, I think since it was built, and 95% of the beyond, 95% above of the owners of the Maui Kamaoli operate their units for the short-term rental. And also Maui Kamaoli are fall within the Walia census designation place. And I know that in the Maui, South Maui community plan, Maui Kamaoli is not put into the Walia, but I checked the US Census Bureau website. The location of Maui Kamaoli is within the Walia census designation place. And Walia is renowned for the luxury resort accommodation and making it a very popular destination for a lot of visitors that's seeking for high-end Maui vacation experience. And Maui Kamaoli has two pools, 2 hot tub, and 2 tennis court. And there's a lot of large tropical landscaping. And it is located within a strip of similar properties that offer short-term rental across the street from the Kamaoli Beach Park 3. And also the Maui Kamaoli front desk has processed and tracked all the guest registration and the visitor parking information. And so it do operate like the hotel style for the Maui Kamaoli. And when we purchased the condo and the short-term rental was permitted under the Minioya list, and we think these condos at Maui Kamaoli is suitable, provide a lot of flexibility for the visitor to choose different style of the accommodation, and also the cost of maintenance for the Maui Kamaoli condo is very high and is not appropriate or not suitable for the long-term rental due to the very high cost for the high cost of the maintenance. So that we ask the Planning Commission to rethink about the zoning of the Maui Kamaoli and to give the hotel zone designation in the South Maui Community Plan.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the testifier? I do have one question. Did you testify before the South Maui Advisory Committee? I mean, the Community Plan Advisory Committee about this?
No, we haven't testified with the South Maui Advisory Commission. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So about the redesignation, we don't have that on our agenda today. It's going to be when we get to section 3. So I would suggest you provide testimony when we have section 3 on the agenda, because that's where all the land use designations are set forth.
I see. Do you know when will be the meeting time or date for the section 3?
We don't. It depends on how far we get through our meeting today. But if you were able to see the agenda for today's meeting, then you should be able to see the agenda for the next meeting when it comes out, which would be on October 8th. And then the one after that will be October 22nd.
I see. Yeah, if the commission member have any question, you can ask me now, and we can prepare the answer for the questions in the next meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing we can only discuss what's on our agenda for this meeting, so that the public knows what we're going to be discussing, and so we can't really touch upon section 3 today.
Got it. Okay, thanks for the explanation.
Yes, I appreciate your testimony though, and hopefully we can see you when we get to section 3.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else signed up to testify?
That's it, Chair. No one else has signed up online or in person.
Okay, we'll do a last call for testimony. If there's anybody online or in person who wishes to testify, please speak up or send a chat to staff. Otherwise, we will close public testimony in 3, 2, 1. Okay, public testimony is closed. Now, commissioners, we have our Department of Housing present, and we had some items that we wanted to revisit with them, which I think staff has those listed for us. Okay. I believe this was on 2.2.21 and 2.2.26. Director?
Yeah, Chair. So we have Director Remy Mitchell and also Buddy Almeida here, and we're going to ask them to come closer so that they can use the microphone. So Commissioner, if it's all right with you.
Yes, welcome. Thank you for being here. Much appreciated. So I trust you've gone through the policies that we've flagged for you, or should we read them out one by one?
Thank you, Chair Thayer, for the invite to the meeting. No, we were not told what specific sections you had questions about. So it would be nice if you could read them.
Okay.
So we're sort of here blind, not knowing exactly the scope of the discussion today. To my right is our County Programs Housing Administrator, Buddy Almeida. He's our expert on, we thought you were going to talk about tax credits, but maybe that's not the case. But we'll see what your questions are and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for letting us know. So we're reviewing the South Maui. Oh,
Want me to read it?
yes.
Okay. So the first one was policy 2.2.21, which is to encourage a greater percentage of affordable housing than required by law in all residential projects, unless the project is to be developed exclusively as an affordable housing project. Affordable housing obligations must be met within the boundaries of the community plan subarea, and credits may not be used. That is the policy as it was passed by CPAC. So that's where the credits, we wanted your information about credits.
If I could just correct my earlier statement. So we did receive in an email that language. I just didn't know the scope of
Oh,
what you were
okay.
about to describe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just by way of background, we wanted, before we say yes or no, or, we might have amendments to this, we wanted to pass this by you folks to make sure it's practicable. Should it be changed in any way? Does it conflict with any existing rules that are in place? Your input on this policy.
Great. Buddy?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Again, Buddy Almeida from the Housing Department. Chapter 2.96 Maui County Code is the ordinance that governs residential workforce housing development in the county of Maui. It's a blanket policy for the whole county. From my review of the material that was submitted to Director Mitchell, the main concern that I had with regards to the policy was that it was targeted specifically for South Maui only and not the others. When we enforce, again, the ordinance is applicable to all community plan areas and not specific ones. So the concern I have is with regards to the implementation of this specific to just the South Maui community plan. Thank you.
Thank you. So would you suggest any revisions to this, or how could we take care of that?
Thank you, Chair. What I would advise is that if the commission feels very strongly with regards to, I guess, the not having credits being essential or not wanting them to be involved with development going forward, that it should be some type of blanket policy or an amendment to 2.96 in general. So it would cover all development and not just specific to the South Maui plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the commission? Vice Chair.
If we eliminate it, do we have more or less housing? Get rid of the credits.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chair. I can't say specifically with regards to whether or not credits provides more or less housing. The idea is in offering the opportunity to earn credits, you get the affordable or workforce housing built up front. And then they have the credits to use on a potential project down the line. So the idea being that you are required to provide a minimum of 25% of the units in your development as workforce housing. Any unit provided over and above that would be given to you as a housing credit, which you could use to satisfy your requirements on a future project. So I can't say specifically, we just basically monitor and govern. I don't have data to prove whether or not this provides more housing.
Commissioner Ducos.
Thank you, Chair. So how long has the credit program been in place?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. 2.96 was enacted in 2006. It has been modified over time, but the credits were always part of the.
Okay, thank you. But just not enough, just no tracking of whether it's effective or not.
Again, by saying effective, I'm not sure, I mean, in what nature it is. There have only been a handful of projects, for-profit developers that have actually earned credits. It's not a large number, that I can state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions from the commission on this policy? I guess, what is the ratio of purchasing credits versus actually building housing?
For an example, under 2.96, say you had a 100-unit project. The requirement on the developer is to provide 25%. So in this case, 25 units are required to satisfy the ordinance. Say they did 100% workforce, they would be entitled to then 75 credits, the difference. And those they can bank and they can either sell those to another developer so they can use them to satisfy a future project, or they can use them in turn if they did another project down the road. So we basically just monitor, we make sure they're in compliance with earning the credits, we issue the award letters, and then we monitor when they do in fact transfer them. The department is not involved with the sale of the credits. We don't get in negotiations with price. So we only track the actual transfer and which project it was applied to. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, with the intent of this policy being to get more affordable housing, do you see any way that this could be optimized to achieve that goal?
Thank you, Chair. As I kind of touched on, I think that in the sense that if the developer is given the carrot to provide more workforce housing up front in the, getting credits in return, I think that that is a positive thing. I can't say whether or not taking it away or having it in place is actually providing more housing. I don't have data in that particular area. I just know that you get the affordable workforce housing up front when the developer does a 100% project. That was the intent, I believe, in reviewing of the notes back when they first put this legislation in action. They wanted to basically get it up front, and then if the credits were ever used down the line, so be it, but the net is always a positive.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions on this policy? Okay, seeing none, done. Maybe we can go to the second one that we had questions for you on.
I just put that on the screen as well. It is 2.2.26, which is all permitted affordable and workforce housing units that are required as part of a development approval must be completed before or at the same time as the rest of the project and cannot be separated to a later phase of the project.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that is how 2.96 is governed. It states that they have to be the workforce or affordable units must be built either in a 1-for-1 or upfront before the market rate units are developed. So we do monitor that, and the developers enter into an agreement with us that states they will do that. Thank you.
Okay, so this is redundant?
Yes, it's already in chapter 2.96 and we capture it there. I don't see a problem with it listing here, but we do make sure that the workforce and affordables are delivered first. Thank you.
Okay. Questions from the commission on this policy? Seeing none. While we have them here, are there any other questions that we would like to ask them?
But it has to relate to the agenda, though.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for taking note of that. Commissioner Digos.
Just since we have you, figure it out. So from the credit standpoint, if somebody did 100% affordable and another project came online, and there was no credits, you essentially would have additional affordable housing, no? Because they would be forced, they couldn't buy credits, they would be forced to build. Or maybe that doesn't make sense.
Thank you, Chair. I think I understand, Commissioner. Yeah, if the developer doesn't have the access to credits, they either can't purchase them or they don't own them, then they are required to build the 25% per code in the income categories that are designated for that 25%. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners, any further questions? Vice Chair?
What do you think's the ideal amount? Let's say if there was that number, I know we tried 50%, that didn't work, did it? We didn't get any housing, or did we?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner, are you referencing the original ordinance that required 50% of the units? Yes, that was not successful. And why we revisited it, I believe, in late 2014 in the Housing Committee. And we convened a task force that basically brought a group of people together from the community, and they came up with 25% in a study looking at other counties and such. We changed the law, and it was much more effective at that point. Projects penciled out a lot better when they didn't have to provide 50% versus the 25.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions from the commission? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners.
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Unless there's anything else you would like to share on this chapter.
Sure.
Director.
It might be useful to have them stay until you've gotten a resolution on these two items as far as how you want to proceed, just in
Okay.
case other questions come up.
Okay. No. Hopefully that's okay with you folks.
Payback.
Commissioners, on item policy 2.2.21, given what we've heard, are there any revisions you would like to make? We do have the department suggested changes that we talked about as well. And I believe some written testimony too.
Would you like me to read the departments?
Sure, yeah, for reference.
Okay. Encourage a greater percentage of affordable housing than required by law in all residential projects, unless the project is to be developed exclusively as an affordable housing project. Encourage affordable housing obligations to be met within the boundaries of the community plan subarea, and credits may not be used is deleted.
So commissioners, Commissioner Dicos?
Yeah, just, I think I had concerns with the credits, but since there's no real data to support its benefit or not, and there was discussion about it being potentially a problem with the countywide policy, I'm fine with the recommendation.
Sorry, specifically which recommendation? The department's?
The department's recommendation to strike the credits.
Okay. Anyone else to weigh in on this policy? No, so is that agreement to stick with the department's proposed changes? Thumbs up from Commissioner Lindsay. Do you want to see what they are? Commissioner Keloha Hipolito. Department's recommendation. Commissioner Keloha.
I wonder, can the planning department, I'm trying to remember why your recommendation is to soften the affordable housing obligations must be met within the boundaries of the community plan. Is that because you think that that's going to be hard to meet?
Director?
That's exactly the reason why. In the South Maui Community Plan area, there are 7 sub areas, and this can be tricky. And I think it would be wise to allow, I think if the goal is to allow these affordable units to be built, putting them anywhere is fine. So that is part of the reason for softening that language. I don't know if staff wanted to add anything to that. All right.
Yeah, no, I guess I was confused. I thought this meant all of South Maui, like putting it outside of South Maui, but there's 7 sub areas within South Maui, so that it's going to be hard to keep them within those little sub areas.
That's correct. And I mean, I think the actual jurisdiction for South Maui is probably a better, marker for that. And then the sub areas that we established as part of this community planning process. And really those sub areas were designed at the outset to kind of create neighborhoods or understand geographic regions within South Maui. We did it in West Maui, carried it over into South Maui, and there's just so many sub regions that it's a small area. This is a small island. South Maui as the region, it seems like a reasonable compromise.
Yeah, so then can we state that or is it already assumed that how the units are going to stay in South Maui? Do we need to put that wording in here?
It does not assume that. It says the community plan sub area and it's encourage. You could just change it to the community plan area.
I think that's a great idea. I'm not gonna put my foot down on anything, but if the rest of the commissioners agree.
So that, just to make sure we're following, so that means the sentence would say, encourage affordable housing obligations to be met within the boundaries of the South Maui, community plan area.
I wonder if it's more affordable housing obligations be met within the boundaries of the community plan area.
Yeah.
So you want to delete encourage, Kealoha, or you want to leave it encourage?
Delete encourage.
And make a statement, affordable housing obligations must be met within the boundaries of the community plan area. Director?
Mahalo, Chair. I think it would be worth having the housing department weigh in here on whether or not there's any difficulty with having these affordable housing requirements be met within the community plan area for these projects. I'm not sure how 2.96 deals with this. That's a deep exhale.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. Yes, I think that the concern is that 2.96 governs all development in Maui County and would be hard to take one community plan area and try and govern it differently. That's just my concern. I would recommend proposing wholesale changes to the credits in 2.96 if that's the commission's desire. I don't think we have the means to police it in the community plan area per se. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Director?
So Chair, encourage would preserve the community's preference to have these areas, have the affordable housing met within that area without running afoul of 2.96. So that is why the department, that's part of the reason why we recommended softening that language a little bit. But of course, the commission can do as they wish.
Commissioner Kealoha?
I'm fine with the recommendation of the department.
Okay, so encourage within the community plan area. Okay. Commissioners? How do we feel about that? encourage affordable housing obligations to be met within the boundaries of the community plan area. Thumbs up from Commissioner Lindsay and Hipolito and Dicos and Kealoha and Vice Chair. Okay, brilliant. Staff got that. Okay, now 2.2.26. So this, as we've heard, is already provided for in chapter 2.96. So do we want to have the redundancy here? Okay, Commissioner Deco says yes. I see nodding from Commissioner Kealoha.
Not against it,
You're not against it, meaning,
but I mean, deleting it would make more sense in my brain, but I am not against it. So I will just go with the majority.
okay. Vice Chair.
I'll echo Commissioner Lindsay's there. It's redundant, probably shouldn't be in there, but it's probably not harmful either.
Okay, so where does that put us then? On one hand, I am for making this document more concise so it's easier for everybody to use. Okay, so, but I'm the chair, so I'm not the one to be proposing things.
I would propose that we remove it.
Commissioners? Okay, Commissioner Lindsay's with you. Commissioner Hipolito is with you. Commissioner Dicos, thumbs up. Commissioner Kealoha.
Sorry, now you wanted to, I thought I got confused. I thought we were keeping it. Did we just say we were
I think
deleting
there
it?
was kind of wishy-washy anyway, so I asked somebody to take a stand one way or another.
I think there's no harm in keeping it. That's my vote.
Okay, I think everybody was okay with doing that. Everybody okay with keeping it? Yeah, okay. Okay, fine. Okay, we'll just keep it. All right. Commissioner Lindsay.
The harm within keeping it is if they do change 2.96 and then we are behind the game in this 10-year plan that lasted 20 years, that is the harm. So that is why we should remove it to clean it up, but I see where your stance is in keeping it there. So like how it reiterates the point and brings it home. But if 2.96 is changed, then we will be behind the game and they will need to revisit this and change it. That is the harm.
Vice Chair.
I concur again, and I think that it should be removed. It'll be a problem later. It doesn't need to be there now.
Commissioner Dicos, thank you.
I'm not sure why, if 2.96, it's not required to be done at the same time. Why does it matter that they asked to be done here? This 2.96 trumps it's just more, I don't know. 2.96 will trump this policy, this South Maui Island plan.
2.96 is law and this is policy.
So it's not in line. It would not be in line. I'm fine either way. Whatever the majority goes, I'll sign up for.
Okay, so Vice Chair Thompson said we should just strike it, and I think Commissioner Lindsay agreed with him. And Commissioner Hipolito?
You can go either way.
Okay,
Excuse me, Chair.
yes.
Just want to bring up, this is Jackie from the Planning Department. Ideally, you would like things to be consistent. We have seen in situations where there might be other rules that are supposed to be consistent with the community plan. And then if it's not consistent with 2.96, like as Commissioner Lindsay had mentioned, then that could cause problems later with, say, an affordable housing project trying to move forward. So ideally, we would like consistency, and this could potentially cause a problem down the road if an affordable housing project were to come up and it were not consistent with the community plan and consistency was required by some other rule. Thank you.
Commissioner Dicos.
So I think it is consistent now, obviously. We're talking about a hypothetical if something changed in the future. I do think there's a lot in here that probably goes way beyond what is in code. You know, there's a lot of push for gray water reuse and all these other things. Some, I think, will probably debate that they'll have to, it's been talked about in testimony. County council will probably have to modify, create an ordinance. So, you know, I don't think it's a straight, everything has got to be exactly in line. I think there's a bit of pushing the boundary here, so I guess I switch back to, I like the intent, it's in line with current policy, then I know it's duplicative, but it's sort of, it's been a big problem. It's kind of significant, no harm in flagging it. Sorry, I keep flipping.
Okay, so how would you folks like to proceed on this one? I think we're going to need agreement. Commissioner Lindsay.
Can housing advise us on what happens in these cases?
If there is like a difference between 2.96 and say the community plan.
Let me jump in here. So the code will govern, but from a drafting standpoint, it's never wise to be duplicative in two different places with policy and legal statements. So if the code has a clear statement, it's much easier to not duplicate it and risk it being inapplicable in another policy document. And that's the simplest answer I can give.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Given that, I vote we take it out.
Okay. You got Vice Chair Thompson, thumbs up on that. Commissioner Dicos, Commissioner Hipolito. Okay, I will agree with taking that out. And Commissioner Kalaha, beautiful. Thank you, everybody. We will strike this policy then. Appreciate your input on this.
Are we free to leave, Chair?
I think so. Does anybody? Oh, Vice Chair.
Yeah, before you guys run away, just kind of on a more broad question, although it covers under here. How much housing are we short, do you know? Affordable and market.
Thank you for the question, Vice Chair. We don't know the answer to that question, but certainly we're nowhere near meeting the demand. That's all we can say.
Okay, thank you.
Any ballpark range?
Thank you, Chair. We will be receiving the updated Hawaii Housing Planning Study soon, and it should have the updated data in there that you're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lindsay.
Do you have the old study numbers?
So just want to, Chair, I want to make sure that we are sticking to topics on the agenda.
There are policies on the agenda that pertain to providing enough housing for residents.
And to topics that we were suggested that we should be prepared to discuss.
Yes, correct. Okay. Okay. We will have more questions maybe later, which we will send to you if any come up. Yeah. But thank you again for making the time to be here and answering our questions. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Enjoy your dinner.
Yes, you're free to go.
Thank you for coming. That's helpful.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so that takes care of 2.2.21 and 2.2.26. So we had other ones flagged for discussion. Some for Department of OEV Resources. Are we still waiting for their input?
We're still waiting for their input.
Okay. All right. And then the other ones to revisit.
A lot of those are for the electric that we need to get Echo's input on.
Okay.
So that would be all 2.2.48, 49, and 50.
We're waiting for the electric company. Okay.
And then 2.3.11 and 2.3.12, we did discuss with the fire department about the including something about green infrastructure. And they did indicate that they would be supportive of that, but may need more information. And I did just a second. So for both of them, adding the use of green fire breaks with fire resistant native plants will be encouraged to increase biodiversity and reduce erosion based on your comments from the last meeting. Would you like me to read the whole policies? Or do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Can you put them online, Commissioner Lindsay? Or can you share them on screen?
My audio glitched. Can you tell me where we are? I missed it.
2.3.11 and 2.3.12.
Thank you.
These were ones we had flagged for input from Department of Fire and Public Safety.
So 2.3.11 would read, require all development to incorporate defensible space around its perimeter and provide ongoing maintenance as per the recommendations of the fire department. The use of green fire breaks with fire-resistant native plants will be encouraged to increase biodiversity and reduce erosion.
Okay. I see a thumbs up from Commissioner DeCos and Commissioner Lindsay and Commissioner Hipolito and Commissioner Kealoha and Vice Chair. Okay.
Okay, and then the next one, 2.3.12, require landowners of vacant land to incorporate defensible space around the perimeter of developments that their lands abut and provide ongoing maintenance as per the recommendations of the Maui Fire Department. The use of green fire breaks with fire-resistant native plants will be encouraged to increase biodiversity and reduce erosion. It's the same addition.
Thumbs up, thumbs up. Thumbs up from everybody online and Vice Chair. Beautiful. Good job, guys. Thank you. Okay. So we also had flagged 2.3.18.
That was the one with evapotranspiration.
Yes. Okay. So this is the one about evapotranspiration, and planner Karen Kompowicz and I have been going back and forth about this one, and we are arriving at, for simplicity's sake, striking out the clause about canopy trees to reduce evapotranspiration. And so can you read how it would read?
Okay, and you want to also strike the overstory trees?
Yes.
Okay, require new developments to install landscaping that reduces water use with drought resistant and microclimate appropriate design and plants emphasizing native species. Use water catchment systems to support irrigation and use gray water where available to allow by the state and allowed by the State Department of Health.
I think we said minimizes water use instead of reduces water use. Okay. Commissioner Lindsay?
Why were we deleting evapotranspiration? Weren't we leaving that in intentionally?
We went back and forth on the implications of evapotranspiration, because in one sense, evapotranspiration is effectively equivalent to the amount of water a plant like uses. And so in the context of reducing or minimizing water use, you would want low evapotranspiration plants. But when you're talking towards reducing the heat island effect and cooling like cityscapes and built areas, you want higher evapotranspiration because there's more evaporation in the air, which has more of a cooling effect. And so the policy without that still speaks towards installing landscaping that minimizes water use with drought tolerant and climate adapted plants, and emphasizing native species. So it gets to the goal without having that kind of potentially confusing language incorporated. Commissioner Dicos.
Yeah, just to complicate it more, the bioreactors I keep talking about, they often use evapotranspiration. So all your wastewater, if it's an IWS, you can evapotranspirate to 2/3 of that, reducing your leach field. So there are other benefits to evapotranspirating to reduce water that goes to infiltration. Anyway, there's
No.
good and bad evapotranspiration.
Yes, yes, exactly. Commissioner Lindsay.
I feel like it should be included then. That is heavier weight to be included. Because
Okay, but would you want it in terms of reducing evapotranspiration?
I think it is like a word that should be included in our vocabularies, and like it should be included often, making it like normalizing it. And I don't know how I mean, you guys are the plant science people.
Yeah, so, well, I guess, to reiterate, so our back and forth stemmed from the kind of crux between lower plants with lower evapotranspiration rates reduce water usage, and so therefore, aren't as thirsty. But on the flip side, plants with higher evapotranspiration rates would use more water and therefore are thirstier. But they have potentially more of a cooling effect on built areas. So if the goal is to reduce water use, then you would want plants with lower evapotranspiration rates. Yes, Commissioner Lindsay.
So by removing that, we are not addressing either of those issues.
Well, to me, having landscaping that minimizes water use with drought resistant and microclimate appropriate design and plants emphasizing native species would get to the goal of minimizing water use, even if it's not stated about evapotranspiration. So like the intent is still met of this policy.
Agreed. Thank you.
No, appreciate it. Did I see somebody else raise their hand? Okay. So then are you folks okay with, commissioners, are you okay with just taking out that one part of the sentence? Okay, I see thumbs up from everybody online and Vice Chair. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's 2.3.18. Next one to revisit was 2.4.5B, which we've heard some oral testimony on today and got some written testimony of as well. This is the one about the gulches for new developments and subdivisions.
Would you like me to read it?
Sure.
For new development and subdivisions, gulches and drainage ways as identified in the map figure 3.17, page 107 of this plan must remain an open space. No new permanent structures may be developed in or within 100 feet of the top of the bank of identified gulches and drainage ways, with the exception of public bridge crossings and public utilities, including but not limited to Ma'alaya, Kaneao, Pohakea, Waikapu, Waiakoa, Kalani Waipuilani, Waimahai, Keo, which is, you guys have included Keokea after that, Lili Holo, Keavakapu, Wailea, Kamaoli, Paluea, and Kupunakea gulches. This open space area must be identified on the final approved subdivision maps. And this was the language you guys adopted loosely for further discussion.
Commissioner Lindsay.
I feel like at the last meeting, we had good testimony on this. Like suggesting that the waterways have changed over time and something dry waterways that were running 30 years ago are no longer running. And given our limited space, and the way that water changes, I am cautious about this one on every identified gulch and drainage way, disregarding time and the change of the river gulches and drainage ways.
So we had all kinds of, yes, we had all kinds of testimony on this. One of the pieces of written testimony, this was from David Good, that was referred to by a couple other testifiers, talks about combining 2.4.5 A and B together into one as an option. The department also had suggested changes to each A and B individually. You have any idea how you would want to proceed? Commissioner Lindsay.
In hopes of simplifying it a little bit, eliminating one more would be helpful. One less for us to read if we can condense it and it makes sense with the department's recommendations.
Okay, maybe we can combine this all with the department's recommendations. So the written testimony that we got that mushes them both together. I should say consolidate, not mush. So this one says, for new development or redevelopment, gulches and drainage ways as identified in the map in figure 3.17, page 107 of this plan should remain in open space. That changed must to should. Remain in open space, subject to policies 2.4.6 and 2.5.8. And no new permanent structures, with the exception of bridge crossings and utilities, may be developed in or within 50 to 100 feet of the 100-year, 24-hour flood limit. That's a change from the top of the bank. Of identified gulches and drainage ways, unless low-impact development strategies are implemented to provide cleaner stormwater runoff, and that struck prevent stormwater runoff. Identified gulches and drainage ways include, but are not limited to, those ones that are listed in the original policies. I see a thumbs up from Commissioner Lindsay.
Can I just comment?
Yes.
The 100-year, 24-hour flood limit is generally what you look at as the FEMA flood zones. That would not include very much of the Mauka development, which does have direct impacts on downstream. 100 feet from the top of the bank is also a common practice, and if you look at the recommendations from the EPA, the buffer is 50 to 100 feet, depending on the stream order slope and the presence of jurisdictional wetlands, but the jurisdictional wetlands in the United States are only navigable waters, so it's very limited in South Maui.
Okay, so in that case, this might change to maybe developed in or within 50 to 100 feet of the top of the bank, depending on the slope, whatever EPA said.
Yes, just one other comment.
Yeah.
Gulches usually expand, they don't decrease, and the flow of the water has been increasing over the years. It has not been decreasing recently. There have been numerous floods in South Maui. That is why they wanted this policy strengthened and the gulches named. And it kind of separated. The other thing is with redevelopment, you can't really necessarily say they can't develop their parcel. Whereas if you're looking at a brand new development, you can do more low impact development by having the gulches be designated and putting a solid buffer in there.
Thank you. It's helpful insight. Commissioners, thoughts? Commissioner Kealoha.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the department on this. I think we need to keep them separate because they're just allowing for in 5A, they're allowing for the development if you have these structures. In 5B, let's not do the development, and especially like in the couple, I mean, from just a safety standpoint, and with the increase in floods that we have now, especially in the past couple of years with the Konas, I have seen these gulches overflow and houses become impacted. So I don't think it's wise that we build close to gulches.
Okay, so you would want to keep 100 feet from the top of the bank? Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yes.
And keep the two separate, A and B.
Yes, that's my vote.
Okay, thank you. Other commissioners? Commissioner Dicos, you agree with Commissioner Kealoha? Okay. Commissioner Hipolito, agree with Commissioner Kealoha? Okay. Commissioner Lindsay?
I'll go with the majority.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like we are keeping A and B separate and just incorporating the department's suggested changes. Yes, I think so. Commissioner Lindsay.
I do remember testimony thinking that this was not a good idea because of invasive species, like not being manicured also in there because nobody's there or nothing is there.
Okay, so concern with not just letting it be wild buffalo grass in Kiave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, So having some kind of means of maintaining those open spaces.
Yes, it's open space, but managed in some kind. Like the green space is good for public safety, but I mean, if you have a gulch of Kiave, then you have a 10-year flood, then all of that comes down, clogs it up. So at some point there needs to be responsibility somewhere.
So would you want to add in a sentence in each of these to that effect?
It's hard for me because we are mandating that they make it open space, so they just have to pay for it to be manicured constantly. Doesn't generally follow what I think my own values, because if they have to just keep it open just because, even though possibly this river doesn't run and they can't do anything with their own space because it doesn't run, and who are they going to prove that to? I don't trust the FEMA or Army Corps of Engineers in deciding that. I don't think their maps and readings are updated enough in our specific communities to be able to, go off of those.
Okay. So you are torn between requiring the space and making sure it is somehow managed.
Yes. It needs to be managed, but because the more concern is those drainage ways and riverways that don't run, that haven't run, and the water actually changed course. So the water has moved, because there was testimony where the water moved to other waterways, and so therefore, and larger ones potentially, or smaller, so therefore it's not coming back. But then the ones not, who are like, maybe there's a development that kind of moved the water one way, then it's not going to go back in that one. Now that one is empty and it will never be filled because it's impossible, and now we have to have 100-foot open space designation.
Did you say the EPA, sorry, back to staff planner. Did you say the EPA said 50 to 100 feet?
Yeah, it was from the EPA recommendations.
Okay.
Documents. But there are also other policies that encourage permaculture design for stormwater. Maybe that would address it. Also, right now, as far as the gulches are concerned, we don't really have the jurisdiction to tell them in a community plan to clear them, and it's a problem right now.
Director?
I think this is a good question and a good point. I think it's difficult to address in a community plan, however. And I think that it almost looks like, I think this is a condition of approval potentially situation on a case-by-case basis, instead of trying to put it into the community plan to cover a bunch of situations. That's my reaction to what you're saying, Commissioner. I can't think of, I'm racking my brain, I can't think of language that would address your concern in a way that wouldn't also damage potentially places where you would want to leave it untouched. So I think the best way to handle circumstances like that is when a project comes before you for a review, that you would make those conditions.
Is it possible to put verbiage in to say a case-by-case basis?
Doctor?
I don't know what the effect putting that language would be. Like, I don't know how effective that would be. And I'm looking at staff to see if there's any ideas. My brain is a little addled at this point of the day.
That's something to make a recommendation of at the time that you're getting the permit, and for us to put on a case-by-case basis, encourage management of the gulches. I'm not even sure it should probably be a separate policy though, so it's not seen as these gulches are protected on a case-by-case basis.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Well, like public safety is the most important. But I just think, yeah, I'm just trying there. I know these are a lot of waterways, and I can imagine not all of them ran in the last 20 years. I don't know. I'm not a professional. You guys have the professional in the room there with you, if we could call upon them.
Director.
I think it's important to note that then that's water running in the gulches is not the only reason to think about gulches and not building on the edges of gulches. Gulches are inherently steep slopes and not super safe to put structures on. So there's multiple benefits to not building on the edge of gulches. So I just wanted to say that out loud. That's the only thing I have to add, Chair. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, having heard all of this, how shall we proceed with this policy? Well, I guess if, coming to say when a development or subdivision is being proposed, how would this get carried out in processing that application?
So in reviewing the project, we would take a look at where the structures are proposed, right? And we would use this policy to guide that. I don't think we've had to do this in West Maui since the policy's been put in place yet. I wish Danny was here to assist with this question. I'm trying to think of circumstances under which, basically we would look at this policy to make sure nothing is that close.
So would this be assessed on a case-by-case basis anyway?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Director.
But if you wanted to go further than this policy, you could say because this doesn't run, because we have evidence that this particular gulch is not something that has water in it, we do also want it to be maintained. So theoretically, you could put conditions on your approval, wherever that approval would come in for whatever you were approving, that you could do this on a case-by-case basis. And I think that's where we stand in the planning department, that the language that is being discussed is probably not appropriate for this. The idea of the language, we don't actually have specific language yet.
Or could we add a sentence along the lines of, like, to the extent practicable, landowners or developers are encouraged to maintain the open space area? Just to speak to Commissioner Lindsay's concerns.
So once the land is sold to homeowners, would that then be a condition of the homeowners, like an HOA? I don't actually know the answer to that.
I think the language you've proposed is fine.
Okay.
I don't have a strong reaction to it. It's pretty, I think it addresses the concern without hamstringing.
Commissioner Lindsay, are you okay with that addition? I guess for both A and B? Okay. Other commissioners? I see thumbs up from Vice Chair, thumbs up from Commissioner Dicos. Thumbs up from Commissioner Hipolito. Commissioner Kealoha.
Sorry, we're not changing anything, right?
Well, we're talking about just taking the department's proposed changes and adding that sentence.
Yeah, that's what we voted on initially, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I thumbs up that already.
Okay, but I was talking about adding a sentence speaking to Commissioner Lindsay's concerns to say encourage to the extent practicable maintaining the open space area.
Thumbs up.
And Commissioner Lindsay, you said that was okay? For both? Okay, staff, you got that? Okay, I see nodding from staff. Okay, so that is 2.4.5B. 2.4.14. We also had flagged, that was for Department of Public Works, but we finished off last meeting on 2.4.10. And so the first one to discuss today would be 2.4.11. Director.
Chair, I believe we finished on 2.4.14, according to our materials and our.
That's what you were discussing, 2.4.14,
Okay.
and then decided that it was time to
Okay.
end the meeting.
To call it.
Oh, shucks. Address 2.96.
Do you want me to read the planning department's recommendation for 2.4
14. I'm wondering if we should ask the housing department about 2.4.12. Or that's state law, maybe not. Did we vote on 2.4.11?
You did.
Commissioner Lindsay, followed by Commissioner Dicos.
I have that we stopped at 2.4.11.
Yeah, that's what I have too. Commissioner Dicos?
Yeah, I thought we went beyond that, but I was just looking at 2.4.10. I don't, did we go over that one? I just had a question on C on that one.
I think nobody had any comments, but we can discuss it.
I just wanted it, okay.
Yeah, 1 second. Commissioner Lindsay?
I have that one flagged 2.4.10. I'm not sure why, but that one was flagged.
Okay, well, let's start discussing that one then. Commissioner Dicos, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm fine with anything. I just want to know what they mean by regional beach management at the beach cell level. Just curious what that means.
So, having it at the, and it's been a long time since I looked at this policy. Having the beach management at the level of the beaches that are interacting with each other, rather than the entire area.
Okay, this is, okay, it's nothing to do with beach nourishment or anything like that. It's just management at a smaller level, right?
Director?
And this,
Yeah, Chair, this was a recommendation from our partners with UHC grant that language like this be included to ensure. So we're not going to pretend that we're scientists up here. This was a recommendation from the scientists. And I know you're one as well, Commissioner.
Right, and I can't interpret, I mean, I think either that has to get defined or I would ask to remove that. Or maybe we flag it for later and have someone just explain what that means. Everything above it, it sounds great, totally in line. This seems odd.
I can request them to comment or give a definition that's clear.
Okay, staff said they can get comments from UHC grant. Commissioner Lindsay?
I like the smaller approaches, like the beaches that interact with each other. Like that part of it. If that matters for section C.
Okay, you support the intent?
You know
Okay.
what, rereading it.
I'm for defining it in that in versus deleting it.
And I'm fine. I just reread it. I'm fine with it. That's fine.
Okay, so are we okay as is? Do we still need input from Sea Grant?
No.
Okay. Oh, okay. Very nice. Okay, so 2.4.11.
So the language I had that you guys had at the last meeting was require new development and redevelopment to prioritize native and canoe plants appropriate for the microclimate to conserve water, provide shade and beauty, and reduce sediment runoff. And all new landscaping must minimize irrigation needs. So you added prioritize and canoe plants and deleted as needed ecologically advantageous non-invasive plants may be used. And I believe that was deleted because it's included in another policy.
Okay, so require new development and redevelopment to prioritize native and canoe plants. And then the sentence ends at sediment runoff. And then all new landscaping must minimize irrigation needs. Okay. Commissioners?
I have a
Chair
question.
Hipolito?
Yeah, I wasn't here at the last meeting. I apologize for that, but how does this native planning's policies we're creating for the South Maui Community Plan coincide with the county plant native, not native, but the county planting plan?
The county planting plan has a whole chapter for native species. So this would align with that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Commissioner Dicos?
Sorry, you mentioned canoe plants, but is that included? Am I looking at, I see endemic. I don't see canoe.
You had
I think we discussed this at the last meeting.
Okay.
So
So
in
it
our
is-
discussion, we changed from endemic to canoe because native includes endemic already.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Okay, so are we good with this proposed change, everybody? I see thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up all around. Okay, beautiful. 2.4.12. Any comments? I was wondering if this is within the purview of the South Maui Community Plan.
Well, hello, Chair, for that question. So as you know, 201H projects can be exempted from all kinds of things, including the community plan. So it is expressing a wish. I mean, this is one of those interesting language moments where we can say require here, but 201H projects can waive, I mean, the requirement to be consistent with the community plan can be waived.
So can you translate that effectively? What does that mean for us?
It means you may put this policy in there, but it may or may not apply depending on whether or not the community plan has been waived.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any thoughts? Commissioner Dicos, I think followed by Commissioner Lindsay. Are you raising your hand? Okay.
Sorry, what are the initials at the end of that?
Those are all the flood zones.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, Commissioner Lindsay?
I was skipping ahead, sorry.
Okay, so are we good leaving this one in then, Vice Chair?
Yeah, there's a lot of them already in those V and VE and stuff. Those, I think my house is in that, being on Lower Road. So, and mine would be designated as a good one for affordable housing right in the middle. So I don't know, I'm a little hesitant for that because we rezone, we change those flood maps all the time and consistently, and there's tons of neighborhoods already in them. Guess it's 100-year storm. So a little hesitant.
So I guess Would you keep it, revise it, strike it,
I would encourage.
encourage? Oh, encourage versus require? Okay. Director?
Yeah, I think the other thing that I'll add to this too is that if there are triggers for flood, this policy would not, you know what I mean? So if there's a project that is in one of these zones, yes, if there's a project that shows up in one of these zones, there may be another trigger that for that flood review. And so I guess the point being, this policy is not helpful.
Okay. So you would move, oh, okay. Commissioner Dicos followed by Commissioner Kealoha.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, you know. It's almost like, well, affordable housing, we don't care. We'll put them in the flood zones. We'll put them in the batteries. I mean, I understand we want to encourage more affordable housing, but I'm not sure we want to put them, if I'm interpreting that correctly, exempt them from. Anyway, maybe I'm not interpreting properly.
Director?
Yeah, so it wouldn't exempt them from it. It actually is and I think the point of this, if I'm understanding South Maui politics and structure and history properly, there are some projects that are Makai of Pi'ilani Highway that have this problem. And so the idea, I think, with this policy was to say, don't allow 201H projects to occur in these flood zones. The intent is good. The execution it's problematic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Commissioner Dicos?
Sorry, I was reading it wrong. I see that the intent is to keep them out of hazard areas. Okay, which I agree with.
Commissioner Kealoha?
Yeah, my question was just going to be to clarify the intent, which I thought was to make sure that workforce housing isn't put in areas that are undesirable or dangerous. And I think that was the point here. So in that case, I would agree with the intent.
How do you feel about require versus encourage?
I'm not quite sure because I don't know, like, are developers just putting all the workforce housing into undesirable areas? And if that's the case, then we probably should stop that from happening, but I'm not familiar enough with all the projects. I'm open to a discussion.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair?
Sheriff, I'll add on there. So many properties have a portion of their property is in one of those zones, and it can be close to a river that has already been rerouted, in my case, or oceans, or any of those. So then we put a barrier. I don't know. I think we're pretty good about knocking projects out. You know, if they come in and it's not viable or it's below sea level or something silly, which we wouldn't do it. But like I said, I would say encourage, and then by case basis, we get them here anyway, won't we?
Director?
That is likely, although not certain, but no, I mean, this policy is directed at 201Hs and 2.96 and 2.97. So, I mean, if you are concerned and if you want to express the concern of the community of not putting affordable housing in flood zones, you could revise this policy to remove using 201H, HRS, 2.96 and 2.97 MCC from this and just say require or encourage affordable housing to be outside of the special flood hazard areas, including blah, blah, blah. So if that is the intent of the commission, that's one way to get to that outcome.
Yeah, I think that the intent's excellent. right? We don't want people
Absolutely.
flooded or they're got to pull their car out with a tow truck or something. But yeah, we don't want to clip them when it's, like I say, and I've been here 40 years, my property, a portion of it, and it changed. And they raised it higher, even though it was from a river up the street that's already been redone. So, but half my property is in a VE or something, a flood zone. And it's an A2 that would be perfect right in the middle of the resort, area, perfect for affordable housing. Not saying mine will be one, and mine's not in Kihei, but if there is someone there that has that, and a lot of those properties are low lying, even well inside, far from the ocean. So that's my skeptic, if we got in and said, sorry, you can't use this one, and it's a perfect piece. So maybe is that an encourage instead of require?
Director.
Yeah, I think one other thing to keep in mind, as with almost all of the policies that we've talked about so far and agonized over, there are regulations that govern these things as well. So I want us to keep that in mind, that there are flood regulations. So each of these projects will be evaluated for flood. If they are in an area that gets flooded, they will be required to elevate if they're close to that area. I mean, they'll have to go through the traditional process. So I guess I just hesitate to continue to agonize over a policy that currently is mostly meaningless as it's written. I just, encourage, just given all that we have to do.
What would your recommendation be?
It doesn't hurt anything to leave it exactly as it is in my mind. I don't know if my staff has another opinion on this, but we did not call it out in our proposed changes because it's a good thing to have the intent stated, and council can look at this and say, if a 201H or a 2.97 comes in front of them, they can say, the South Maui Community Plan has a recommendation not to do this. So if I were going to change anything, I would say instead of require, encourage. But either way, both sets of words are going to lead to the same outcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Lindsay, did you raise your hand? Oh, okay. Okay, so commissioners, leave in, take out, require, encourage. Sounds like it doesn't matter. Leave it as is. Okay, leave it as is. All right, I see thumbs up all around. Okay. It is 5 o'clock. Does anybody need a break? Commissioner Lindsay, Commissioner Hipolito, yes. Commissioner Lindsay, you have something to say, or is that to need a break?
I need to leave at 5.
Okay.
But I do in 2.5, I was hoping that we could also send that to OEV resources. I don't know if you guys are going through it anyway, because that looks like the end of the agenda. But that was a comment I wanted to say.
Oh, Kikai is here.
Oh, we have the Department of OEV Resources online.
Kikai Robinson.
Kikai Robinson, Deputy Director. Aloha.
Hi, aloha mai kako. Aloha e ko South Maui Planning Commission. Nice to see you folks.
You too. We're just talking about taking a 5-minute break. We are, I think, about to lose Commissioner Lindsay. You just want to make sure, you want to say anything before you have to go?
Yeah, I'm like trying to hold on as long as I can so I can maybe go half an hour more, but 5-minute break for sure is needed.
Okay, let's do a 5-minute break. It is 5:04. Let's just come back at 5:10. Thank you, everybody.
I ordered pizza because I feel like everyone is crazy.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Hope you've had some chance to move around. I took a walk around the parking lot, get some blood flowing again. And Commissioner Lindsay, we have you until 5:30-ish, I think you said. And Commissioner Dicos, I have a note that you're available until 6:30. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna transition into a vehicle. I'll try to hang on as long as I can.
Okay, thank you. We will go for as long as we have quorum. But right before the break, we did have acknowledgement that we have the Deputy Director of the Department of OEV Resources here. Mrs. Kekai Robinson, are you still there?
Aloha.
Wonderful. Aloha and congratulations on your new position.
Mahalo.
So I think the department had given you some policies that we were seeking your input on, among a couple of other things. Do you-
Yes, so Department of Planning transmitted over to Department of OEV the Vahikupuna section of the policies that you folks are reviewing. And so, I mean, I guess at this point, I'm very interested to hear the Planning Commission's thoughts. And if you have anything that you would like for me to specifically address or have a conversation or look into, I'm happy to do that for you folks.
Sure. And I guess, yeah, so we have some questions about like the narrative history that's provided in the plan. And then there's, we're looking for your input and guidance on some of like the specific policies. But just to kind of give you more of an idea of where we were coming from on the historical narrative sections, and commissioners, please feel free to jump in here. But there's the kind of introductory section 1.3 called South Maui Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. And it starts with the Wakahiko and it goes into Western Contact. So being that we have the Department of OEV Resources now, we were, I just seeking your, expertise in making sure that this is a good representation of the history of South Maui from the Wakahiko and into Western Contact. We had questions about, like wanting to highlight the sandalwood trade as an example. Oh, you're on mute.
Kalamai, I'm not seeing that in the forms that I received, but maybe I'm just looking in the wrong area. I'm seeing a section 2 and a 2.5. I'm not seeing a 1.
Okay. Oh, no problem.
And the background. Sorry about that. Sorry
No,
about
it's totally okay. We, in that one, we wouldn't need to like discuss necessarily. We would be interested if you folks had like a good, I don't know if you have time to make a write-up or if you had good like reference texts for the planning department to utilize to flesh out these sections.
Okay. I'll go get back to you on that.
Okay, but so yeah, this is the introduction. So maybe the department can send you the draft of this and indicate the chapter to you.
Okay.
Commissioner Lindsay.
For that one, the big 1.3 section, I think a lot of my concerns, well, South Maui is divided moku, and so my concerns were the waters come from Mauka, go down, and then it kind of is all part of, because South Maui is a lot of different moku, unlike other areas like upcountry, for example, Wailuku areas is mostly like the intact moku. That was a little bit of my concerns with that section. My other thing was prioritizing Hawaiian words where it is like common words like ahupua'a, moku, mauka, kai, those kinds of, and prioritizing Hawaiian place names over the new names for those. Yeah, and then the historical sections, they kind of pulled from different, putting South Maui into context, they pulled it from different places. possibly if that is the best place or you have a better reference to that places that were referenced or a different source of the similar information from a Hawaiian perspective, would be my preference to prioritize. I know they spent a lot of time on this and they did a lot of work, and I'm grateful for that also. But I also want to respect the culture that exists here and make sure that those are the right things to put in and the good intentions of the community here. That's it for now for the beginning section. I think there was a couple of ones that we flagged for your department also. I don't have them offhand unless I go through this whole book, but
I can tell you which ones those are. Okay, but we'll pause there. Kahukekai, if you need any clarification or if we can continue.
No, thank you very much. I hear you. And we did have an opportunity to review very quickly with Planning Department South Maui's historical background introduction piece, but I didn't get a chance yet to go through that. And Jackie Takakura has been just incredible about sending all the information through. I think it's just our side that we need to be able to pull that up and then have some time to review. Just in regards to the divided moku, absolutely agree. I absolutely agree that we should reference the correct Hawaiian place names. OEV department will always be an advocate for that. And if we can contribute to helping provide that information on the Olelo Hawaii place name, we will do so. And then as far as providing additional sources for information cited in the introduction, I would need to take a closer look at that before we can, give some recommendation or some just advice on that. So, but I have your questions here and I'm open to if any of the other commissioners have questions or anything they'd like for us to take a look at. And thanks for the time, thanks for the grace and having some time to do so and get back to you folks.
No, totally understand. You are in the middle of standing up a whole new department in the midst of doing this. And this is just one piece of many. Okay, so with that, I guess if we can pass by you or discuss with you the actual specific policies that I think the department gave to you. Oh, 1 second, Commissioner Dicos, do you have a question or comment?
Just real quick, I provided a bit of language way back at the beginning for the connection Makai to Maukana Makai. Maybe that could be shared as well.
Oh,
I
yes.
think it ended up as one of the links in the agendas for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of language regarding the Ahupua'a system and alignment of like Ahupua'a with waterways.
Yeah.
That was part of the introductory section. Okay, and then so section 2 is all of like the individual policy statements. And I think the first one we had flagged for you was 2.2.31. Is that correct?
I'll read it to you.
Thank you.
It is promote the placement of utilities underground in new areas of development and existing areas where possible to minimize the impacts from fires, high winds, and other storm events, and protect native birds and scenic resources. Minimize ground disturbance in culturally sensitive areas.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because of the mention of culturally sensitive areas, we wanted to pass this by you for your perspective.
Mahalo. Sorry, we're looking for it.
I think
I
staff
just
is
put it
putting
on the screen for you.
Oh, mahalo. Oh yeah. Okay, see him.
Yeah, that one.
Underground utilities. Okay. I mean, it goes without saying that minimizing ground disturbance is really important when it comes to protecting EV. In culturally sensitive areas, I would even say highly concentrated areas. And so we do house the county's lead archaeologists, and if there are questions about where those areas are, I think we can have her take a closer look into it for if you have specific areas of concern. Yeah, it's important to put the utilities underground. I understand, but I think working with OEV department and the county archaeologists and planning, it would be really important for this part. So, I mean, other than that, I think it's okay the way it reads.
Okay. Would we want to or need to put in, like, work with the county archaeologists to minimize ground disturbance in culturally sensitive areas, or is that going to be taken care of?
My recollection on this specific policy that the commission wanted to run by Department of OEV had to do with the last sentence, minimize ground disturbance in culturally sensitive areas. And I think the specific comment was, how do we know? In reference to culturally sensitive areas. So I mean, I think I had shared at that meeting that we do have existing processes in place, primarily the 6C review process. But I think we also had the courtesy wanted to extend this particular policy and any thoughts to Department of OEV.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Mahalo, Kavika.
Okay. So good on that one? Everybody okay? Okay. So the next one we had flagged was just a little bit down, 2.2.34.
Visitor-related development and businesses must minimize the impact of tourism on South Maui residents, infrastructure, parks, environment, and cultural resources. The visitor industry shall focus on the quality of visitor experience rather than quantity.
And so,
Go ahead, Kavika.
My recollection is that similarly, this was also, we wanted to extend the courtesy to the Department of OEV Resources, any thoughts they had related to enhancing the visitor experience as it relates to the culture.
Yeah, mahalo for that question or the opportunity to chime in. I think this reads perfectly. I think, that the OEV department is for sure very much supportive of, managed visitor, managed tourism, and especially culturally sensitive cultural places of concentrated cultural resources. So yeah, yes.
Okay, mahalo. And I guess we didn't necessarily flag these, but there were a couple of earlier policies that talked about, like, encourage the development of, like, pickleball courts, basketball courts, soccer fields, etc. And we suggested adding in halau space for that. Just want to make sure that you're aware of some changes we've made that would kind of pertain to your area.
Mahalo. In addition to halal space, I will also probably want to say that there are va'a spaces in South Maui that are really important to the community in South Maui. He'enalu surfing, canoe paddling, a lot of the ocean activities. To me, when I hear cultural resources and in relation to the department, you're thinking vai aina lani kai kinds of resources. And so limu, what exists in the South Maui area and what can be cared for. Those kinds of things are impacted by a visitor industry for sure in very heavy ways. And we've seen the decline and decrease of that. So how we can move forward and just acknowledge that those things are important and should be protected. I on a personal level, love that there are parks and recreational areas that the community wants there as well. For basketball and pickleball and all of those kinds of things too. But I really appreciate the fact that the commission is also thinking about culturally important recreational and also engagement and connectivity in South Maui. So mahalo.
Mahalo. So just to make sure we capture your suggestion, so we should also add like kanuhale in here or something to that effect?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we add that to 2.2.10? Okay, mahalo for your guidance on this. So then overall, section 2.5 is all about, oh, sorry, who was that? Commissioner Lindsay?
Yes, you chose hello as a word, but is that the appropriate word to cover like cultural center or learning space? Okay.
Mahalo, you can use halau for halau hula to qualify it. You can also use halau va'a to qualify that. So halau hula would be spaces for dedicated to hula and that activity. Halau va'a is same designated for that specific activity.
And hello is just okay for both.
Yeah.
Okay.
For halau, I would qualify them. Halau hula, halau va'a.
And that would also apply to a general cultural space like the plan was for Wailuku area.
General cultural space.
Oh, like the halau of OEV art.
And yeah, and the art area. So we're hoping that it was kind of an all-encompassing word or multiple words if need, but all of those words were included. So we wanted to include a halau hula space, halau va'a now that you're bringing it up. And then just a general learning being Hawaiian space that if you're not a practitioner of va'a or hula, then you also have a space to be general arts.
Let me get back to you on that. I think halau, because it has like a more local connotation, folks automatically relate and assume that it is hula related. And so, for folks that for Kanaka that understand the language, we understand that halau can mean a general space of learning. However, I think in our current community, it's become associated with just hula, which is not quite wrong, but not quite all encompassing. So if it's okay, I mean, let me think on that for a little bit. I, at this point, would suggest to quantify it and to qualify it with halau hula and halau va'a if you want to be specific. But it's sounding like you want to be general. So halau like dedicated to OEV or cultural Hawaiian cultural activities would be probably the most understandable way to kind of express that. So like halau dedicated to Hawaiian cultural
things, all the things.
All the things. Hello, Kalamai. Let me think on that. Maybe I'll come up with something a little bit more succinct.
I'm wondering though if we do want to call out halau va'a, because I think there's not a lot of kanuhale kind of resources in South Maui, and maybe it would be good to call that out specifically.
I would agree to add that.
But we'll flag that for the future in case you have any other mana'o that you want to add. Okay, so then section 2.5 is all about responsible stewardship of wahikupuna and historic properties, which I think we want to pass the whole thing by you from the introduction through all of the policies.
Yeah, mahalo. I agree with Commissioner Lindsay on using the appropriate Hawaiian words that are commonly and more well known. I think it will familiarize the community with the use of these words. So for example, avahikupuna, oivi, hale, these should be common in our local language right now. Hai, mo'olelo. I'm not sure if the entirety of this document has a section that is like an index or like a reference in how they usually have in the back of a book where you can kind of have an area where it will say the hu'olelo Hawaii, the Hawaiian word, and give a translation. And so that might be something you might consider. But I do think that if you're going to utilize the Olelo Hawaii words, that in some way, shape, or form, you may need to provide that for folks that don't understand, even if they are common words. But I highly encourage the use of as many Olelo Hawaii words as you're comfortable with.
Awesome. There is an appendix E in the very back of the document that has some Olelo Hawaii written. But Bombay, maybe after you can review that list and make sure everything's defined well. And then if there's any others that we can add in, then we would love your input on that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to review the entirety of the document and whatever words that you're using in Olelo Hawaii, if they can be included in that index. I think it becomes then, this long-term plan also becomes like a learning tool, an educational tool as well, so that as you read, you can go ahead and learn about those words too.
Yes, ideally, this would be enriching for everybody who reads it. Commissioner Lindsay, did you raise your hand? Everybody's very small on our screen right now.
I was going to say that about the dictionary in the back of the appendix. But also I think those common words, originally comments were like replacing those like here in this section is pu'u and then springs and wetlands, like kupuna, like those words. And then originally they had parentheses, and I think we got rid of the parentheses, and I don't know which version you have, if you have the original version or the version that we kind of went through already. But yeah, yep, that's all.
Excuse me, this is Jackie. I just want to say that I didn't ask Deputy Director Robinson to look at Appendix E, so I apologize for that. She hasn't
Nope,
seen that
no
part.
problem. That was not on our radar at the time that we flagged the stuff for her, so it's totally okay. Director?
I also think it would be beneficial to give the deputy director a little time to respond in writing to at least this particular section, because there's quite a bit there. And I would love to just offer to the deputy opportunity to sit down and talk story with the department as well, so that we can help you navigate what these policies are for, because it might help your comments as well. And then I know that throughout the process of this, in Appendix E, we have tried to capture every Olelo Hawaii that we used. But it also would be good to double check at the end, make sure, because I know that we've added new language here and there, and I want to make sure that we capture as much as possible. This is a learning opportunity for anyone who interacts with this document. We take that very seriously in the planning department.
Okay, so have you gotten a chance to review section 2.5 yet?
Just shortly, section 2.5 is only a couple pages long. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah. So I was just making sure that there wasn't more to it. And I really want to acknowledge Director of Planning, because she's absolutely right. Thank you so much I appreciate that, and I would love to be able to have some time to review the policies with you as well, and understand them, and respond in writing. But if there is anything in particular that the committee has questions on in this 2.5 section, um, are you wanting to go through them one by one? Is there something that I can focus in on for you?
I don't know that we would need to discuss them today. I would rather like to give you the time to sit with them and weigh through them and understand how, like from the director, how they all interact together. And if you have the time, it would be awesome to get your input, from an OEV perspective on the rest of the policies that are in this document, because there's some that talk about watershed management, which is very aligned with like Ahupua'a management and things like that.
Mahalo.
Yes. But commissioners, is there any, guidance you would want to provide or, questions to pose for the department to think about as they review this section or document? Director.
Just in case we get through 2.4 today, what we can do for the next agenda is post section 3 and 2.5, so we can return to 2.5 without having to redo everything. So just a heads up, like a housekeeping piece on the agenda.
Commissioner Dicos.
I thought we were done 2.4. Are we not starting 2.5?
We did not go all the way through
Oh.
2.4 yet. I think
Okay.
we have not discussed 2.4.13 through 2.4.17.
Right, okay. So just doing a time check, because I know Commissioner Lindsay is on the way out and that 2.5 seems her area.
Mhm.
I kind of have to jump. I can finish out 2.4 for sure. I might be in transition for that, but are we gonna try to get through 2.5 today or possibly?
No, I think 2.5 will just give the Department of OEV Resources the time to review that, because I think it would be more productive to hear their input before we hash through it, or else we're gonna just hash through it twice.
Yeah, okay.
We will work towards finishing 2.4 today. But while we have Kahuke Kai here, I just want to give everybody a chance to ask any specific questions. Otherwise, we can let her go and have her come back when she's ready with written comments. Commissioners, all good? Okay. And Kahuke Kai, do you have any questions for us, or do you have enough direction to go forward? Mahalo. Okay.
Mahalo.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so 2.4.13. Okay, we got 5 guys. Can we get through 5 while everybody's still here? Okay, let's do it. All right, 2.4.13. Any comments, questions, or are we good? 2.4.14, the department has comments on, and we think we had flagged this for Public Works.
Do you want me to read the departments first?
Did we get an answer from Public Works? Okay, yeah, we can go through the departments first, planning and then Public Works.
The intent of this policy is to require the implementation of low-impact development or permaculture design practices to reduce stormwater runoff and protect water quality. The department finds that where appropriate weakens the intention to require and should be deleted. However, the department recommends softening the language of the second sentence because for some developments, such a requirement may not be necessary or feasible. The department recommends the following changes. Require the implementation of low-impact development or permaculture design practices in developments in South Maui to reduce stormwater runoff and protect water quality. encourage management of flows that are greater than a 5-year storm event and remove pollutants through low impact design or permaculture design to retain, filter, and sink stormwater as feasible on site. So that was deleting where appropriate, replacing require with encourage in the second sentence, and adding to retain, filter, and sink stormwater as feasible on site at the end. And the Department of Public Works recommended to require development in South Maui to reduce stormwater runoff and protect water quality by adhering to the adopted County of Maui drainage rules and encourage and prioritize the use of low impact design and green infrastructure when feasible.
Do we have a copy of that somewhere?
You do, it's in your testimony. It was
Okay.
the first item for this week.
Commissioners, Commissioner Dicos.
That last sentence, and I prefer to having require, and we do have as feasible at the end. That sort of softens that.
So you're looking at the department recommended.
Yeah.
The planning department, not Department of Public Works.
Sorry, planning department.
Okay.
You have require on the first line, which is good. I know encourages doesn't really do much. So I almost just take it out if it's encouraged.
The departments, well, I guess both have require for the first sentence and encourage for the second sentence.
I know in the past we've kept the hard language, but we've done as, what's the language we used?
As practicable.
As practical or when feasible.
So we do have as feasible, if you feel better to keep required, but as practicable.
Okay, so you would keep the planning department's suggestions and not go with the Public Works Department suggestions?
Sorry, where do I find the public works?
If you go to our agenda for today and click on the link for documents received after posting new testimony. And they provide an explanation for their comments. So while he's pulling that up, other commissioners have any comments? Or preference for one version over the other? Department of Public Works versus Department of Planning versions? Planner Comquich.
It was very important to the South Maui CPAC that low impact development be utilized. It is also this policy was strengthened by the CPAC because the Department of Public Works has taken a long time to approve a low impact drainage report that was commissioned by the department, and it took years to be released.
Commissioners' input on this? We have two different departments making different suggestions. So it sounds like Commissioner Dicos would like to keep require for the second sentence and include or keep the language as feasible. The Public Works wanted to add green infrastructure instead of permaculture design. The department kept in permaculture design and added to retain, filter, and sink stormwater. Commissioner Dicos?
I'm
Followed
fine
by
adding,
Aloha.
oh, sorry. I'm fine with adding the green infrastructure to the permaculture.
They replaced permaculture with green infrastructure because they said it's encompassing.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but
Okay, so you would add green infrastructure in addition. Commissioner Kealoha?
I can't comment on anything related to green infrastructure, but I think in general, unless there's a really good reason to change the language, I like the stronger language that the community initially requested, and I'm always on board with reducing pollutants into our ocean. So I like leaving require and then creating that language at the end. I don't remember what you said, as feasible.
Yep.
That would be my vote.
Okay, so kind of merging the two departments' comments. So working with the planning department's version, we would change or keep the second sentence as starting with require, and then add in low impact design and green infrastructure or permaculture design for the second sentence. The first sentence, Public Works said require development in South Maui to reduce stormwater runoff and protect water quality by adhering to the adopted County of Maui drainage rules. Does everybody see that language? Any thoughts either way? Does everybody have the planning, Public Works Department letter for reference? Yeah, okay. Commissioner Hipolito?
I support the Commissioner Dicos and Commissioner Kealoha's the second sentence. I don't really have a comment on the first sentence. I like it the way planning department has written it. I don't know why both departments are not having different opinions. But I can support first sentence as written, and second sentence, I would support require and to include green structure. And I see at the end as feasible on site, that as feasible when they review projects, they will look at that. So I think that covers, even though it says required, I think that gives some flexibility.
Thank you. Okay, so it sounds like we are going with the planning department's recommendation for the first sentence. Then the second sentence will keep require and add in green infrastructure. And I think keep the rest. I see thumbs up from everybody. Okay, awesome. Department, you got that? Thank you. Okay, 3 more. 2.4.15. I don't think there's any changes to, but anybody have any comments? And then the department has proposed changes to 4.16 and 4.17. So 4.16.
Okay. 2.4.16. The intent of this policy is to prioritize the health of the wetlands near McKenna State Park when designing and installing restrooms. The department recommends the following clarifying language. Discourage restrooms at McKenna State Park until technology has improved to ensure the protection of water quality in nearby wetlands. So we deleted and will not degrade and replaced it with to ensure protection of and water quality in nearby wetlands.
I like that turning into the affirmative rather than a negative.
Yes.
Thumbs up from Commissioner Hipolito, Vice Chair, Kealoha and Lindsay and Dikos. Beautiful. Okay, one more, guys.
Whoa.
We're almost there. We're almost there. Mm-hmm. 2.4.17.
Okay. The intent of policy 2.4.17 is to coordinate South Maui and upcountry groups to cooperatively manage the shared watersheds. This is an appropriate action for the Department of Management. The department recommends deleting the policy and incorporating the language into an action 4.11. So the action would read, establish a watershed advisory group to coordinate discussions between South Maui and upcountry groups in planning and managing Kula and Honua'ula watersheds. That includes participation from stakeholders, Mauka to Makai, including agencies that manage or regulate lands, residents, landowners, interested community groups, and NGOs.
Commissioner Kealoha.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is already happening and it's so how does that change if this is already happening and we put it into an action, does that mean it's like crossed off? Or if we were to keep it in the plan, does it mean that we continue to encourage those discussions? Do you know, are you getting at my question? Like,
You're encouraging the discussions and the department gets a big star for already succeeding.
I was like, because it's already happening. So I mean, that's a good thing that that's kind of checked. But how do we continue to like make sure that because I don't know a whole lot about that. That's like a new watershed management plan, right? And so I don't know. I guess I'm trying to figure out how that fits together.
I don't actually know how that watershed advisory group is working either. It is a
Okay.
newer one. And so I also don't know if that's being run by the government or if that is more of just an intergroup, an interneighborly thing to do. Sorry, that was some weird words.
Okay. I mean, I'm very supportive of this being in action, and I'm just wondering if we want to continue to encourage those discussions, but I'm fine with the department's recommendation too.
Could we say the action is to establish and support? Because if it already exists, then it would do that. This is like adding the stuff to your to-do list so you can just check it off already. Feels good. Okay, so yeah, can we change this to establish and support and then keep it as the action? How does that sound? Commissioner Lindsay.
I'm wondering how Kealia Pond fits into this, including Waikapu.
That might be a separate action because this one is upcountry South Maui and that would be, although I'm pretty sure I read in like a culture impact assessment for a project many years ago that Kulani Hakoi used to run into Kealia Pond.
I mean, I feel like we should include all of the moku that are included in the area since we're touching those two. But that might just be me because Kealia Pond is a large water beach. I don't know, but is that just reaching for the stars?
Director?
So Maui is a little different because it also includes portions of West Maui Community Plan area. So not actual Maui, but the Mauka portion is in the West Maui Community Plan area. So, and then there's portions of it in Central as well. So it's a little trickier. It's not as easy as just shoehorning it in to this one. If the commission feels strongly about it, you could establish another policy. I think it is worth noting, though, that this did not come up during the CPAC process, unless I'm mistaken. No. Yeah, so it wasn't a concern of the community there. I do know there's a ton of work, including a lot of work by the planning department to deal with watershed issues in Maui already. And so adding them to the community plan, I don't know that it's going to make anything better, including a large purchase of property just recently on the Malka side. So food for thought.
Commissioner Kealoha?
I'm pretty sure I got an email at some point recently for a final draft of the Ma'alaya Watershed Management Plan, which includes Waikapu and Waiakoa. So those things are probably already happening.
Okay, so that implies Kealia is already being addressed by existing efforts. Okay, so then back to this policy then. Are we good with establish and support? And then keeping the rest as suggested by the department? Okay, I think I see thumbs up from Commissioner Lindsay, Decos, everybody online, and Vice Chair. Okay, awesome. I think that is all our policies that we are going to go through today, since we are asking the Department of OEV Resources to weigh in on 2.5 before we start discussing that. Director?
Yeah, just a question for the next agenda. Does the commission anticipate returning to any of the other goals or just going from 2.5 on from this point?
Well, I guess we want to leave space for the event that we hear back from Department of OEV Resources on previous ones.
Okay.
So would it be crazy to have one?
It may encourage a lot of testimony on previous chapters. We also have the ones identified in the list.
Uh-huh.
Just identify those, or there is also at the very end of this, there's one more time you guys look at the whole thing. And that might be a better time to look at the individual.
Okay, because if say we hear back from OEV Resources by next meeting on like 1 and 2, are we still able to discuss those?
So if we don't agendize them, no. But I agree with staff that it may allow the commission to just focus on 2.5 if we just have 2.5, and then there's an opportunity to come back and review everything. And at that time, you could take up the comments from the OEV Resources, Department of OEV Resources.
Or could we, as another way to do it, because I don't know that I necessarily want to wait all the way to the end before we revisit it, because it'll still be sort of fresh in our minds within the next couple of weeks. Like, could we have on the agenda, like input or comments from Department of OEV Resources, and that would create a window to discuss whatever they have to discuss.
I think what we don't have to decide here today. I think I want to talk it over with staff and see. Did we just say there was two sections, the 2.2 and 2.3, where that we asked for specific? No, we asked for section 1
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, right.
I would like permission from the commission to adjust this. So maybe we don't have to wait till the end, but for the purposes of keeping the momentum going, perhaps what we can do is just agendize 2.5 for the next one and then start section 3.
Okay.
And then what we can do is once we have all of these comments, let me figure out the right way to address this without opening everything up.
Because as long as we have like Department of OEV Resources comments, like by the time this is agendized,
Yeah.
like they can be a link on the agenda and we could
I just
discuss their
we just wouldn't be able to go anywhere but
what they
those policies that they are referencing.
in the like the 1.3 was one of the ones that we asked them to weigh in on.
Yeah, and so I mean, 1.3 wasn't on your agenda today. So like section 1 wasn't on your agenda
Right.
at all today. So commenting on that would have been improper. Let me work with Corp Counsel and figure out if there's a way to agendize this to address the concerns that you have.
Okay. And she might not be, or they might not be ready by our next meeting, but whenever they are ready, we would want to discuss what they have.
So if they are not ready by next meeting, it would be helpful to have your go ahead to just move on to 3, if that's all right with the commission. So what if OEV Resources isn't ready with their feedback? So October 8th would be focused on section 3.
Okay, commissioners, are you good with that? Our next meeting would be completely on section 3. Okay, I see thumbs up all around. Okay. All right. Well, I think that concludes our meeting for now, unless
So I didn't get to do, is there a director's report on this one?
I don't think so.
Well, that might be, so under other commission business, if I could say, you have a new commissioner joining you on October 8th, whatever year this is, October 8th. Brian Thomas Ward will be joining you, so you will have 7. So congratulations, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience as we've gotten it. I love the raising of the roof, everyone being happy.
And a smile look how big smile from Commissioner Hippolito.
I don't think I've ever seen Commissioner Hippolito smile, so that's exciting. So we're happy to welcome him and thank him for joining you in this slog. It's going to be a wonderful thing. We're going to do our best to prep him so that he's ready to hit the ground running.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kiloha?
Sorry, Director, can you say his name one more time?
It's Brian Thomas Ward.
From South Maui?
From South Maui.
Ooh,
So you
alright.
have County Commissioner. I also think he has connections with the CPAC, if I'm not mistaken.
On the CPAC, yeah.
He was on the CPAC, so he has experience with this subject.
Perfect. Yeah. Even better. Okay. Thank you again, everybody. Excellent work today. Appreciate all of you very much. Have a good evening and ahui ho. Meeting adjourned. Eat pizza.
It was 2.3 too.
And
She,